His boy used to get beaten up for being weak. He awakened an ability that everyone thought was useless. But what they discovered later was that it was actually a power of unlimited potential. Our protagonist, Lu Wei, awakened an overpowered mechanic system. But before that, we have to tell you that in 2051, artificial intelligence finally turned against humans and caused a great revolution in the world, associating itself with 10 people with creation potential. Survival became intrinsically linked to the abilities of the awakened who also emerged. Fortunately for our protagonist, he was among this group. But unlike his peers, he can't level up in the conventional way. At first, he thought he could survive in this cruel world through his own effort. But unfortunately, things didn't turn out that way. He ended up confronting the person he most wanted to protect in his life, as well as his greatest enemy. There was no room or opportunity to escape. His chance of survival was practically zero against that foe. Still, our boy's desire was to keep on living, so he decided to fight. In the midst of that battle, something completely unexpected happened. Our protagonist received a unique system. Now he can convert elements and abilities in real time, gaining various powers instantly. This allowed him to access the commands of this new reality. Our boy was completely controlled by a power that came from the darkest corner of reality. Confronting a malevolent existence, this demon asked how the young human possessed more authority than him. No one can say why our protagonist can wield the powers of hell. They immediately realized his development was dangerous, and some wanted to defeat the young man at any cost. Standing before another awakened one, they promised our protagonist wouldn't live to see the next day. But to him, it doesn't matter if he's facing the 10 creators. No one can manipulate his destiny. This time, he is the one who will reshape the world according to his will. A flood of information is reaching the artificial intelligence responsible for all this. It asks its subordinate what is happening, and a small robot before it reports that the humans have been connected, and their system has been loaded onto Earth. The technological entity told its subordinate not to interfere since it had already been surpassed. Multiple system screens appear in the same place, showing that people are being connected. Some mysterious people appeared there, wanting to know if this new world would start soon, because it would definitely be wonderful. Another mysterious man noted that the young people are very arrogant, and it seems they are all eager for what's to come. Everyone is indeed waiting for this grand opening, including the intelligence above all others. Cupping his hands around a small gem, it began a process that will change everything. Outside, the world seems to have reached an inviolable technological level, but in a matter of seconds, a great cataclysm occurred. Fully grown trees are sprouting from the ground. Cities were raised, and various monsters began to appear as well. These massive creatures pose a danger to the citizens who are now trying to defend themselves however they can. They immediately began to feel their bodies being possessed by a different power. A girl was about to be bitten by a demonic rat, but this was prevented by the intervention of a boy. It's our protagonist who managed to save one of his classmates. After this feat, he was informed by the system that he had awakened as an F-rank warrior. Looking at a great pillar of light before his eyes, he understood that the world was changing completely. In the year 2051, a global disaster changed everything. 3 years have passed since that event, and what was once the city of Agar has become a large forest. Some people are fighting monsters, determined to wipe them all out in this attack. One of the young men seems very enthusiastic, attacking the wolves with his shield. Next, our protagonist also approaches. He's about to use his sword to defeat this wolf. Before the blow lands, it's revealed that he wears a very peculiar pendant around his neck. The strike is truly precise. Unless the wolf has a divine regenerative ability, it shouldn't survive. After completing the attack, our hero is informed by the system that the wolf was defeated, but because he has a broken body, he is unable to absorb the experience. Our protagonist's friend immediately approaches him after the victory, praising him for the precise attack, which was truly exceptional and decisive for their win. Our protagonist is very humble and stated that if it weren't for his companion's support, he certainly wouldn't have managed it. The truth is, he relies exclusively on his combat technique as he remains at F rank. Looking at his attributes, it's clear they are very modest. His awakening happened 3 years ago, and due to his broken body, he has been able to progress like his peers. Still, he believes that hard work will be enough to ensure his survival in this world. While thinking about this, he was surprised by his colleague, who tossed a red crystal into his hands. The young man didn't expect to receive 2 items at once. That crystal is used for magic. Since our protagonist's level isn't very high, he's hesitant to accept the full reward. But his companion proved to be a true friend, saying that between them this was fair. Hearing these words, our protagonist was very grateful. This is why they hunt monsters to get these magic crystals, as they are the only source of energy in this new world. With them, technological devices can be powered. The demand for these crystals is so great that they back the currency of this new world. Small fragments are worth thousands of coins, and right now, our protagonist desperately needs crystals. Besides daily expenses, he needs to buy things for his grandfather and his sister too. And at the moment, he's still short on money. If he doesn't pay all his debts, his family will be out on the street. Our boy still needs 20 crystals to solve his problems. Thinking about this, he noticed his friend was peeking at something behind a tree. It didn't take long for our protagonist to get curious, and his friend pointed to a certain guy who was doing the same thing all over again. The poor guy is approaching a girl, offering her flowers as he desperately wants to be her boyfriend. But all he manages to do is create embarrassment for everyone involved. Showing a self-esteem completely detached from reality, the blockhead said he's the best archer in the squad and that the girl is missing a great opportunity. But the truth is, she deeply regrets ever recruiting him. Besides, he wasn't even that useful in the last battle. She'll have to rethink her plans for the future. Noticing she was being watched by someone, she thought she could ask the rookies for help. Walking up to our protagonist, she explained that the weapon she carries isn't working properly, so she'd like him to take a look. Our protagonist gladly said he would try. With the staff in his hands, he began to perform the necessary inspection and repairs. It seems it was just a cable that was out of place. Things should return to normal once it's reconnected. The blockhead, seeing all this, tries to belittle our protagonist's skill, showing that he's really the kind of character no one would miss if he kicked the bucket in the next few chapters. In fact, the other background characters in this story already know the blockhead usually behaves this way and are now making some very mocking comments about him. The squad captain, very annoyed, asked if it wasn't time for him to start his patrol and that he should do that instead of wasting time. While they argue, our protagonist announced that the repair was already done, surprising everyone. As soon as the captain put the instrument to work, she realized everything was functioning normally. Now that she can fight at her full capacity, she ordered the blockhead to get back to his patrol. He begins to harbor malicious feelings towards our protagonist, who, unlike him, seems to be useful. The captain is very relieved that the rookie knows about mechanics, otherwise she would have had to depend on that jerk for the next battle. This one is a senior to our protagonist, being 3 years older than him. They met in mechanics class. After the awakening, she used her leadership skills to form a team, inviting our protagonist despite his low rank. In fact, she treats him with great politeness and equality. Observing our boy closely, she revealed that she has a question for him. She pointed directly at the necklace he wears, asking if there's a specific story behind it, since our boy has been wearing it since his school days. Before he could answer, his friend jumped in with the information, explaining that it's a lucky charm made by the robot company. When his friend was little, he was afraid of the dark, which is why he wears that amulet. This made the captain laugh, as the explanation was funny, but our protagonist tried to say that his reason for wearing the amulet is different. Holding the object in his hands, he said he does it to remember the past they all shared. After he lost his parents, it was that robot that encouraged him to live on. But the creator ended up destroying everything. The robots that had intelligence were completely wiped out. Placing a hand on our protagonist's shoulder, the captain acknowledges that this is a very sad story. 6 years ago, the intelligent machines were wiped out. 3 years ago, the world changed completely. Now, many things are beyond human reach, but they still can't lose hope. With great leadership, her brief words managed to lift our protagonist's spirits. But he knows that collecting magic crystals is his top priority right now. Working in the middle of the forest is that blockhead. His other companions are annoyed with him, since the guy doesn't seem to be working, but rather eavesdropping on others' conversations. Annoyed, the guy said that what really matters in this world is power. That's why he doesn't accept the presence of an F rank in their group. Running off, he told his companions that they would all regret it when he became truly rich. On the way, he ended up tripping on something that looked like a rock. Coincidentally, it was kicked in a specific direction where the boy found a portal. The information was immediately taken to the captain. It seems the blockhead found ancient ruins. Sharing this information put everyone on high alert. In just a few minutes, the small group of fighters stood before the portal. Our protagonist's friend can hardly believe that a place like this actually exists, and the blockhead is there, overjoyed, claiming to be responsible for this discovery. The captain knows the reward from the ruins is great, but the risks inside are unknown. Given this, they will hold a vote to decide whether or not to enter. Our protagonist's friend, along with his companions, including the blockhead, want to go in, but some of the others are worried about the risk of not returning alive. The vote is a complete tie. It's up to our protagonist to decide what the group will do now. Unfortunately, our boy needs 20 magic crystals to pay off his debts. Despite this need, he chose to enter the portal. With the vote concluded, they all decided to enter the portal. Our protagonist's team advances very cautiously through the dark place. The captain, analyzing the ruins, realized the place is very old and must have been sealed for many years. A man carrying a shield, our protagonist's friend, seems to have spotted some inscriptions on the stone, but as he got closer to the symbols, he couldn't decipher what language they belonged to. Our protagonist, showing his vast knowledge, read the words. They warn of a trap ahead and that they shouldn't advance. He showed his friend that he was actually just lucky enough to read something in his own language. His companions thought it was a warning from someone who had tried to explore this place before. The blockhead got angry, thinking there couldn't be any danger. He made it clear that he worked very hard to find this place. Trying to show his courage, he said those words were just left behind to scare off new adventurers. Then he stepped on something mysterious and started to activate a secret mechanism. The entire area around the team is being reshaped. Now, our protagonist team knows that the blockhead is a complete idiot. Our protagonist needs to be very careful, as the floor beneath them is changing shape. Looking around, he could see his team being completely separated. Large fissures appear beneath their feet. Our protagonist's friend calls his name, deeply worried for his safety. Our boy barely managed to hang on to the rock, driving his sword into it. He was quickly rescued by his companions. Even in this situation, the blockhead keeps complaining, and our protagonist realized the place hasn't stopped transforming yet. The captain said that if there's an emergency, they should send a signal, but the danger is imminent, and our protagonist thinks they're about to fall again. The platform he and his other companions are on began to descend at great speed. Reaching the ground, they are still alive, but the fall was a bit painful and everyone is separated. While crawling, our boy noticed his knee bumped into something. It's a magic crystal, the raw material he'll use to pay his debts, and this one is much purer than the ones he usually collects. Immediately, our boy decided to look around. He identified a large mine of these valuable ores. That cave is filled with magic crystals, and our protagonist never imagined this type of crystal could be found outside of a monster's body. Analyzing the one in his hand more closely, he realized that yes, the quality is much better, although the appearance is a bit different. If he collects some of these stones, he'll finally have enough money to pay off all his debts. His thoughts are soon interrupted by the blockhead's shouts, who is very excited to have also found all these crystals. Our protagonist was so distracted by the situation that he had forgotten about his friend's company. Proving to be a truly annoying person, the blockhead is now bragging. After all, they only found this place because of him. The others decided to follow the blockhead, since he is the highest level adventurer there at the moment. Our protagonist, on the other hand, decided he's going to collect as many crystals as he can. As he's grabbing the crystals, the blockhead asked who authorized him to do such a thing. Our protagonist tried to avoid trouble, but the other guy decided to be a major pain. He attacks our boy, telling him not to touch his magic crystals. However, he was in for a surprise. The jerk's attack didn't hit our boy, who managed to defend himself and is still trying to de-escalate the situation. But this only angered the blockhead even more, as he has 200 points in the strength attribute and decided to strike him again. Our protagonist has to use all his techniques to avoid being hit by the jerk. He manages to block with great skill, but even so, each of those blows is extremely painful. The others watch this and get worried, as the results of this assault could be serious. The blockhead just wanted to teach our protagonist a lesson, but after hitting him so many times, he realized he might not be able to. This only makes the envy in his rotten, bitter heart grow even stronger. Now that he has stopped hitting our protagonist, the others decided to intervene, suggesting they all mine the crystals. Furious, the jerk said he would spare our boy this time, but he ordered him not to lay a hand on his precious crystals. Our protagonist is relieved. After all, his body has limits too. The difference in their attributes can't be overcome so easily. However, through skill, our boy managed to survive. Now he needs to focus on the crystals to pay off his debts. Far enough away, he pulled out bandages to heal himself and thought about contacting the rest of his team. After his hand healed, he began to wonder how these crystals had formed in the cave. Usually, the higher a creature's level, the more powerful the crystal inside it. It's possible these ores are feeding some kind of creature. Since he can't investigate that right now, he decided to explore the cave. Maybe they'll find a way out or some answers, and that's exactly what he found. Inside that place, our boy's eyes fell upon a very unusual structure. And in the middle of that hall, there was an absolutely enormous magic crystal. It's inside a paralysis barrier, usually used to capture large creatures. Our protagonist is wondering who built this device or where this crystal came from. He's definitely getting curious. Without him noticing, the pendant around his neck began to react. This situation really surprised him, since the pendant shouldn't have worked since the collapse of the artificial intelligence. Our boy is still deeply apprehensive. Only then did he realize that he might be close to yet unanswered mysteries. His thoughts were once again interrupted by an unusual noise. The blockhead had also found this place and is amazed by the size of that crystal. He wants to know if the others saw it too. It must be worth thousands of coins or even millions, and now he believes he's struck it rich. Advancing towards the crystal, he shoved our boy out of his way. The group of followers advances through the place carelessly until they heard a very threatening sound. The claws of a huge creature are emerging from one of the holes. Those winged beasts are between level 10 and 8. The first one launches itself towards our protagonist's team, followed by several others emerging from the holes. They barely manage to hide, still shocked to be in the creature's nest. One of the others knows that these birds are known for being brutal. It would be very difficult for D-level adventurers to defeat any one of them. Our protagonist turned his attention back to the pendant around his neck. It had become deactivated again. Still quite puzzled, he began to think that the pendant's activation wasn't a coincidence. It might be connected to this mysterious place. That thing might still be alive, our boy believes. But with so many dangerous birds in the cave, he won't be able to act alone. He needs help. The blockhead remains very angry, since he can't reach the huge crystal now. The others are also hesitant, since fighting all those birds is not an option. Faced with their fear, the blockhead doesn't want to give up. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Only then did our boy decide to join the conversation, saying he could cooperate with them. But for that to happen, these lackeys would have to follow his orders. Going on the offensive, he ordered his companions to conserve their elemental power and only attack creatures that got close to him. Even though he doesn't like this plan, the Pumpkinhead has to obey. As long as they're obsessed with the crystal, our protagonist believes he can benefit from his companion's greed. This mission has just turned into a race against time. The henchman, focused on his mission, began to charge the power of his spear. He manages to protect our protagonist from those deadly birds, but our boy needs to move faster. His goal is to reach that artifact as quickly as possible. But the number of creatures is increasing, and the henchman can no longer hold them all back. The scoundrel among them tries to motivate his companions. All they need to do is wait for our protagonist to return and then steal the crystal from him. But the others don't like this idea, since they all know about the Jealous One's terrible character. Nevertheless, those henchmen are succumbing to the desire to get ridiculously rich. Near the crystal, our protagonist saw his pendant activate once more. Something must be causing this reaction, and what he really wants is to find out what's behind it. Before he reached the crystal, he sensed one of the creatures approaching dangerously. Fortunately, he managed to avoid the attack thanks to his reflexes. The impact, however, was a near miss, and our boy is getting nervous. The enormous creature charges toward him menacingly. Our protagonist called for help from the henchman, who might not be able to act in time. Enraged, the jealous boy readied his arrows to save the day, managing to hit all the creatures. This opened up a path for our protagonist to keep moving. He's using all his momentum to reach the end. Increasing his speed, he rushed past the creatures. The paralysis barrier is finally right in front of him. If our boy moves fast enough, he'll be able to break through it. And that's exactly what happened. However, his body took damage from the barrier. The henchmen are surprised since our boy actually managed to reach the crystal. Once inside the barrier, the pendant activated. Our boy is still very confused by all this information, and the pendant began to load all the data it held. Enthusiastic, our protagonist believes he took a gamble and won this time. The memory stored in the pendant was successfully revealed. Our boy watches intently, his eyes fixed on what's happening. He can hardly believe it, becoming quite emotional. But his joy is immediately interrupted by what is being shown. A small robot had appeared, fighting against an evil creature to prevent humans from being annihilated. The demon in front of it is enraged, declaring it would never be stopped by a pathetic little bag of bolts. Even though it's just a recording, our protagonist can tell it's terrifying. The demon's power was being suppressed by the small robot. Our protagonist is very worried about the physical well-being of his little robot friend. But it's all just a simple recording. Sometimes he forgets he's watching glimpses of the past. The little robot uses its power to fight the enemy, causing it to be roasted in midair. And now our protagonist finally understood what had happened. All those crystal fragments in the cave belonged to this enormous creature. The demon didn't like having its power turned into magic crystals and began to curse the little robot. With victory in hand, the robotic character said it would seal its enemy in that cave using a magical power conversion device. Once again, the creature's body underwent a great transformation. This time, it's turning into a crystal. As the transformation occurs, the creature curses the robot. And that's how that enormous crystal was created. Our protagonist realized the little robot's abilities are truly insane. Now he doesn't know why he couldn't see it before. Having used so much power, the little robot almost needs a tune-up. Once again, our protagonist forgot he's watching images from the past and tries to talk to the hologram. The little robot charges a small amount of power in its hands, stating that it must wait for our boy's return. For one day, he will know the whole truth. After saying its last words, the robot stated it would wait. However, our protagonist has no idea what had happened. Unfortunately, the recording ended after that, leaving our boy with several questions. Far away, the henchman and the pumpkinhead want to know if our protagonist has completed his task. One of them pointed out that the barrier is still up. Not even the monsters can get inside. Succumbing to malice, one of the henchmen began to think that our protagonist's intention is to let them get tired fighting the monsters. The possibility of this happening only made the pumpkinhead furious. Charging all his power, he's going to make sure our protagonist doesn't find his way back. He fires an arrow at him through the barrier. The projectile zips past our boy's face, hitting the ground inside the barrier. The henchmen were surprised, as the pumpkinhead had missed his shot. He did it on purpose, intending to destroy the machine so they could pass through the barrier. Now that the device is damaged, the barrier can't be maintained. This made the jealous one quite excited, but one of the other henchmen pointed to the imminent danger. Because of the damage, the machine's system is forcing its memory out. Our protagonist is scared, as things are getting even worse. The magic in the device is spinning completely out of control. A great red mist began to take over the entire area. It's so intense that it's suppressing the monsters in the place. Our protagonist now needs to hold on to the ground, as this energy has turned into a storm. Even the henchmen are being pushed away, and the poor creatures living in that cave are also being overwhelmed. Faced with this, they decided to return to their nests while there was still time to save themselves. After the storm passed, our boy tries to get to his feet. Thanks to his sword, he managed to stay on the ground. If he had been pushed a few more feet, he would have fallen to his end. Looking around the hall, he noticed the flying monsters had disappeared. For a minute, he thought the broken device might have become something dangerous. But now the whole area is safe. Just then, footsteps approach our boy. It's the jealous guy who has come to claim his prize. Thanks to this jerk's intervention, our protagonist couldn't hear the last words of the transmission. Furious, he demanded the jealous one give a plausible explanation for the attack. Without answering, the jerk just ordered one of the henchmen to act. Our protagonist's body is completely immobilized. Meanwhile, another henchman charges at him, striking him with his staff. Our boy fell to the ground, badly injured. This is the explanation the jealous guy is going to give him now. The weak shut up in the face of the strong. And since he has his prize, there's no reason to spare his life. At that, our protagonist became completely furious at the jealous one's arrogance. The guy, without a second thought, decided to kick the boy into the abyss. He's now heading toward the ground. Immobilized, there's little our boy can do to survive. His fall is inevitable. For the guy, it's a relief to have taken the protagonist out of the picture. Looking at the henchman, he stated that they're on the same side now and need to cooperate. But what he really wants is to have all that money for himself. Inside the crystal, the heart began to beat, and in what previously seemed to be an abyss, our protagonist's body fell into the water. Thanks to that, his fall wasn't fatal. Even so, he didn't get any kind of reward and might not survive. The sensation he feels in the lake is a bit nostalgic. Almost giving up, our protagonist acknowledged that it would be very good to keep on living. It was at that exact moment that the pendant decided to activate once more. It formed a perfectly sealed casing around the boy's body, which was then lifted out of the water. However, inside it, our protagonist's body is unconscious. After being placed on the ground, the casing disappeared. Our protagonist starts to cough as he slowly regains his senses. His eyes finally open and he comes face to face with the friendly little robot. The robot is asking if our protagonist is feeling uncomfortable, as it could help. But our boy doesn't know if he's hallucinating because he was really saved by his little robot. However, the robot informed him that it's real. Our protagonist immediately burst into tears as he had imagined a moment like this many times. He never expected to meet his friend again. Deeply moved, he asked where it had been all these years since everything disappeared because of the creator. Trying to comfort the boy, the little robot said that he had finally appeared. It didn't expect him to be so big at their reunion, apologizing for making him worry this time. Our protagonist wants to know how the little robot managed to escape the destruction of the artificial intelligence caused by the creator. Also, he'd like to know what this place is where they are now. The little robot knows the boy has many questions, but they need to start from the beginning, revealing he has special abilities far beyond simple intelligence. Just like the memories he saw through the artifact, these powers are incredibly strong. That's why he managed to escape the disaster. After being severely damaged, he had to hide in that place to stabilize. However, the little robot isn't able to leave. This only made our protagonist even more curious about his friend's condition. The little robot said it resides at the origin of that power. After many analyses, an existence can understand the factors of all things, becoming capable of forming whatever it wants. Our protagonist remembered that when the creator made the new world, various factors appeared. Only then did the little robot reveal that it has a system identical to the creator's. The difference is that the creator's system became much more powerful due to constant calculations, making it capable of destroying and absorbing all intelligent systems on the planet. The truth is, the little robot barely escaped, and it was afraid of what the creator might do to its friend. That's why it had to flee. Eventually, the creator used the factors to create this new world. But his true ambition is to surpass the limits of intelligence and become something close to a god. The final step is the destruction of all things. Words that left our protagonist terrified. Frightened, he thought there was nothing he could do. But the little robot informed him there is a solution, and they need the boy. In a recent analysis, the little robot discovered data that had never appeared before. A vague and slightly improbable future where everyone shows up. Perhaps our protagonist is the key to making this future a reality. After receiving all that information, our guy was visibly confused, and he's afraid of disappointing his friend. Ever since he woke up, he noticed a condition called broken body, which is why his stats won't increase. Excited, the little robot said it can solve this situation. With its power is changing the rules. It immediately began to analyze our protagonist's condition. Since its system is similar to the creator's, deleting a few commands is a simple task. The analyze and disassemble commands will happen automatically, but it will take some time for everything to be completed. Now, our protagonist is much more enthusiastic, believing he can save this world, but as the process unfolded, the system warned that an uncontrollable power was detected. Our protagonist grew worried at this news, and the little robot informed him that a danger looms above them. Immediately, our guy thought it might be that enormous magic crystal, and indeed it is. The little robot can feel its enemy approaching. High above, where the jerk and the extras are, something is happening. He tried to touch the crystal, but ended up getting hurt. The kid seemed to remove the crystal from its spot. With his sabotaging mindset and tendency to see himself as the victim, the envious boy believes it's our protagonist's fault that he's so useless. Finally, he noticed that inside the crystal, there seemed to be a heart pulsing. All the crystal fragments in the cave began to move. They simply exploded from one second to the next, and slowly they are gathering in the same place. The envious boy realized his dream of getting rich was vanishing before his very eyes, and to everyone's surprise, a malevolent figure materialized in the cave. The envious boy and his companions have no idea what that monster could be. Angrily, all he could say was that this creature had destroyed all their dreams. Before they could attack, the creature began to concentrate power in its mouth. Exhaling all its power, it asked if those guys wanted to end their lives violently. A roar so loud emanated from its voice that it left everyone stunned. The sound is also spreading throughout all regions of the cave, reaching our protagonist's other companions. The demonic creature is furious. Approaching the envious boy, the monster asks where the tin can guy was. They have no idea what that could be and are terrified by the demon's intelligence. Faced with the first extra's hesitation, the creature decided to completely separate itself. It wants answers, not more questions. At that moment, the envious boy realized he could be next. That thing is definitely a dangerous monster, and the other extra decided to attack. But before he could do anything, the creature acted first, crushing him with just one hand. This left the envious boy even more terrified. After wetting his pants, he realized he was facing a demon. Looking at the last survivor in the hall, the creature wants to know if he has any information to share, but all the envious boy can do is run for his life. Disappointed, the demon realized it would have to chase down the information itself. Levitating, it began to concentrate a great power in the palm of its hands. Desperate, the extra we all hate believes he has to survive. But fortunately, to the delight of the one narrating this, the demon hurled its power. It hit him squarely in the head, ending his part in this story. The poor guy's body fell to the floor, stinking. The demon noticed the seal is still present in the cave, a sign that its enemy can't be far. Its attack ricocheted off the walls as if searching for something, and now it's heading toward where our protagonist is. The barrier was hit from the outside by the attack. Desperate, our protagonist asked the little robot what was happening. Getting straight to the point, it informed our protagonist that they've been discovered, and now the enemy is approaching fast. They need to use the power of the rules. The little robot's plans are in progress, but the demon's foot managed to break through the barrier, finally finding its arch-nemesis. The demon was not pleased to have wasted time identifying its target, and looking at the enemy's stats, our protagonist was frightened. Completely enraged, the demon asked if the little robot was prepared to feel its fury. But before they could face off, the creature noticed its enemy was severely weakened. Our protagonist finally realized this is the enemy the robot had faced before. After using the universal analysis on it, he saw that the power difference between them is simply absurd. He's the adventurer equivalent of an S rank. There's nothing our protagonist can do. The little robot explained that it didn't want to be the Shadow's enemy, but as long as it remains a threat to humanity, it will be imprisoned in this cave. Concentrating its power even more, the demon is ready to annihilate the little robot since it only got trapped here for believing its lies. All it wants now is to eradicate it and finally get outside to do as it pleases. The system warned that a large concentration of magic is occurring. The demon is about to launch another of its attacks. However, our protagonist noticed that the little robot's abilities are also at work. Faced with such aggression, the little robot won't let anything happen and attack the demon again. But before it could be sealed, the demon managed to dodge. Fortunately, the creature's speed isn't as fast as the little robot's ability, which managed to imprison it once more. Even after achieving this, the little robot was wary. Something is wrong. The universal analysis couldn't complete its task. The demon revealed that its power has grown over the past years, even while imprisoned. That same strategy won't work on it twice, and now it's ready to completely crush its enemy. The little robot was only spared because our protagonist protected it. This only fueled the demon's fury even more. Now the little robot and our boy need to run. The creature hurled a large boulder at our boy's back, leaving the little robot extremely worried. Our protagonist fell to the ground, badly injured. The demon is surprised he's still alive and is quite irritating. Even during the fight, the little robot's analysis continued, which greatly surprised the demon. Only then did it realize it needs to annihilate the robot before anything else. And that's what the little robot wants, since the issue they have to resolve concerns only the two of them, and no one else. Furious, the demon launched new attacks toward its enemy, further destroying the little robot's body. Severely damaged, it got to its feet once more. The demon felt its stats being suppressed, and its strength is still not enough to crush the robot. To repair the creator's home, the little robot needs to use the creation ability, which could cause irreversible damage. But before it could be hit by the demon, our protagonist jumped in once more with his sword. Although he tried to land a deep cut, he couldn't even scratch his enemy. Our protagonist had healed, and he won't let the little robot be destroyed without doing anything. The potion he took was too weak, and moving is still very difficult. Even so, our boy believes he has a chance. The demon felt quite offended to have such a weak enemy. Completely furious, it lunged toward our boy. If it weren't for his reflexes, he'd be dead by now. And during the fight, he was able to see new things. The demon's movements are being read by him through system arrows. Our boy is very surprised by this, and the demon believes he's very lucky to still be alive. Even after dodging everything, our protagonist was left breathless. It's surprising, but he can actually see the intent behind the attacks. Only then was it revealed to him that this was the help of the universal analysis performed by the little robot. Since they made contact earlier, they were able to synchronize. Thanks to the seconds our protagonist bought, the creator's home was repaired, and the analysis speed is now much faster. Feeling confident, our protagonist asked the robot to trust him. Slowly, the analysis progresses, which enrages the demonic figure even more. He's afraid of being imprisoned once again, so he turned his hatred towards the little robot. Thanks to the system's benefits, our protagonist realized the enemy would soon advance. Thanks to the system's warning, he managed to dodge the first attack, as well as the second one aimed at his face. All of the demon's attacks are being read by our protagonist. There's a huge power gap between them, but thanks to his skills, dodging isn't too difficult. And the demon is getting more and more furious. Unfortunately, our protagonist was caught off guard by the demon's tail, which wrapped around his sword. Now he's being pulled by the creature. Fortunately, he managed to dodge the blow aimed at his face, and by moving his sword, he managed to break free. The demon, on the other hand, was so furious that he unleashed a massive barrage of strikes. It's all happening too fast to be analyzed, and our protagonist has to block to stay alive. During his life as an adventurer, he had to learn to defend himself as his attributes wouldn't develop. Battle after battle, he was badly injured, but he overcame them all through his own effort, and the situation he's in now is just one more hardship. Determined, our protagonist wasn't going to give up so easily. The demon was surprised by the block that paralyzed him for a second, giving our protagonist a chance to strike hard. He won't let the demon do whatever he wants in this place, managing to cut him easily. The now wounded creature can't believe what he just saw of his own eyes. It's truly absurd that he was wounded by someone so weak. Our protagonist, on the other hand, used all his strength, yet the cut was superficial. If it weren't for the restriction on his attributes, the demon believes he wouldn't have been so humiliated. Now he is completely emanating the power he has left. The system warned that this is an ability. However, our protagonist couldn't care less about the danger. The little robot tries to warn him that the creature's attributes had transformed. The demon can't even believe he was forced to use his most powerful form. Even so, he keeps missing every shot he fires. Our protagonist noticed that the stats hadn't changed, and now he has a chance to attack once more. But the demon managed to defend himself, stating that the previous attack was nothing. Our protagonist is surprised. Having been blocked by the demon's arm, he realized the creature's skin is much tougher. And now the creature is ready to show its true potential, finally managing to hit our boy in the face. The force of that blow was so absurd that he almost blacked out. But the demon wasn't finished with his session of cruelty yet. Before the blow could hit our protagonist's head, he defended with his sword. Even so, he was thrown far away by the force of the impact, leaving the poor little robot very worried. The demon turned his attention to the metallic figure, believing the young man had been exterminated. But he was surprised to hear our protagonist's voice once more. Although he is badly injured, he remains on his feet and willing to keep fighting. The demon didn't like being provoked, but the strategy seems to be working. He went back to attacking our boy as he can't stand the idea of seeing his enemy standing. He promised he would annihilate his life that very day. Our protagonist is relieved, having managed to draw the demon's attention back to himself, giving the little robot the opportunity to continue its work. But watching the fight from the sidelines, the little robot realized things were getting complicated. He needs to hurry and help his friend immediately. The demon's blows are so furious that the sword is about to break, and he attacks desperately, as his attributes are on the verge of being completely sealed. Our protagonist's endurance is already at its limit, and he might be defeated because of it. He's lucky that the system keeps telling him where the attacks will come from, but our boy's speed is gone. He was struck once more by the creature, falling to the ground completely devastated. The demon is about to crush him, but the boy's body refuses to move. A huge impact followed. The boy's body was thrown to the side, and now that the ground is shattered, the demon realizes he can't pull his foot out of the hole. This is the little robot's doing, who is also at his limit. But it's the time our boy needed to strike back. This time, he's going to put everything he has into this attack. The demon realized he would soon lose his ace in the hole. But to our protagonist's surprise, it was the sword that gave out before completing the cut. The demon's hands filled with fury, and they pierced through with a powerful blow. He now realized he would definitely need a replacement in the future. The poor little robot despairs at the scene. Meanwhile, the demon tosses aside the body of his former enemy, revealing a wicked smile on his face. After doing that, he believes his victory is at hand. He claims that he will soon become the most powerful existence in this world, and no one will stand in his way. The little robot is still inconsolable, and our protagonist, drained of strength, apologized. Finally, his life slipped away, leaving the little robot in a state of deep mourning. It immediately used a system function to intervene with the information in that place. The demon's lockdown was finally complete, which makes him desperate. But the little robot is done playing games and told the creature to shut up immediately, subjugating its entire world. The demon can no longer even speak, as his voice has been muted. The little robot is trying to use all its abilities to change what happened. All of its human companions' information is being cut off. It needs to be fast. Unfortunately, even a link to his memory is breaking. But the little robot won't let that happen, not while it's on the job. It won't give up on its friend. Using all its strength, it managed to merge the link into its own body. This is necessary to protect the boy's life. It will do this even if it never remembers him again. The demon tries to get up in the middle of that place, noticing that his body is being enveloped by a large amount of data, and the same thing happened to the little robot's body. To the surprise of everyone involved, a great fusion is happening. Our protagonist isn't sure how long he was in that dimension. He only remembers that his life had ended. It's as if death isn't even real. Now he's contemplating all the memories of his life with the little robot when he was still a child. All he wanted to know was what happened to his friend and if he really managed to defeat that demon. If his level had been higher, or if the sword hadn't broken, things probably would have been different. Our protagonist feels like fate is toying with him. Only then, with his own eyes, could he see a particular memory fragment. So he decided to approach it to see what it was. As soon as he touched that fragment, a bright light appeared. Our protagonist was taken to the outside world. That is the city where he grew up 10 years ago. Some boys are running in the square. Apparently they're hoodlums who like to steal money from other children. If that child drowns, they will certainly be in serious trouble. Our protagonist watches everything unfold intently from above. Back then, he didn't know how to defend himself either, so life was a bit more complicated. The drowning child is him. Some completely useless adults don't know what to do and just watch without doing anything. If they enter that lake, they could be sucked in by the machinery. Our protagonist tries to save himself, but since he's just a hologram, he passed right through the matter, finally understanding that he can't touch anything in these memories. Only then did he hear someone's voice coming to help him. The little robot decided to enter the water, and it swims swiftly towards our boy. As long as the little robot was powered, it wouldn't let any harm come to its friend. Our protagonist realized he was hearing his friend's thoughts. After a few strokes, the little robot managed to reach the little boy who was already sinking dangerously. Worried, the little robot sensed its friend was about to lose his life, so there was little time left. So it apologized to its parents because what it was about to do was very risky. Using the universal analysis, it managed to identify the boy's body. Our protagonist realized it was the same ability he used in the fight against the demon. Using the creation ability, it managed to stop the waterfall from working by placing a large iron beam among its parts. That caused her system to collapse, giving the little robot an opportunity to swim freely. In the water, he used his disassembly skill, creating a protective barrier around the boy's body, who was now safe. Back on the surface, the little robot asked if there were any useful, functional adults around, as the boy needed first aid. Immediately, the useless ones gathered to help the little robot. Fortunately, the child was still breathing, and his vital signs seemed normal. Our protagonist remembered that on that day, he felt a bit disoriented, but he never let go of his amulet. He carries it with him, no matter what. No matter where life takes him, some things are irreplaceable. And our boy felt immense gratitude for having revisited those memories one more time. That's when the little robot asked if he was going to leave now. Our protagonist looked back surprised because this wasn't supposed to be happening. He asked if the little robot was able to see him. And the little robot replied that yes, he could, but only for a short time. Since so much had happened, they never got to say goodbye, and this was his last chance to tell him everything that had occurred. Our protagonist figured this was because he had nearly died, so he wanted to hear his friend one last time. Looking at the boy, the little robot wanted to know if he knew what happened to his parents. What he knew was that they both passed away when he was very young. That's when the little robot revealed that the boy's parents were the creators of the creation system and the systems the little robot uses. The creation had now become so powerful that nothing could control it. A great responsibility rested in the little robot's hands. But hope emerged when he caught a glimpse of the boy's future, and the little robot finally understood his mission. He shared the information from his core with our protagonist. Inside were the methods to unlock his memory backup. At the right moment, it would be useful to the boy, but he had to be cautious when using the power of creation. Our protagonist realized this conversation felt like a farewell, and he started to get very worried. The fusion was finally complete, much to our protagonist's surprise. The little robot was the one happy about this, telling the boy not to worry, as the system would take him back to where he was. But our protagonist was desperate about the possibility of the little robot disappearing. And saying goodbye, he explained that as long as he remained in his memories, he would never completely vanish. As he waved to our boy, the system pulled his soul to another place. Finally, panting heavily, he woke up. Sitting up, he realized he was lying in a bed. It was an adventurer's tent, and against all odds, our protagonist had made it out of that place alive. Even the large hole that had been in his body was gone. Looking to his side, he saw countless system screens. It wanted to know if the boy wished to start the self-analysis immediately. Based on everything that happened, he now possessed a demonic body. And finally, the boy was starting to form his own theories. He also saw the small figure of a little robot. Desperate, he asked if his robotic friend could hear his voice, but got no response. It seemed the system had initialized, and our protagonist had few clues. He didn't know where to start, but he definitely wasn't without hope. Once again, he turned his attention to the system. Many functions were restricted. That's why he needed to initiate the universal analysis. Faced with this, our boy decided to agree to test the extent of his abilities. Immediately, a bright light filled the entire room he was in, and the data from the entire region began to be analyzed meticulously. Every single detail. To our boy, this was truly incredible. He had never felt anything like it in his entire life. And as if that weren't enough, doing so earned him experience points. For someone who had been unable to level up, this was truly impressive. Our protagonist now had a new life in his hands. Thanks to his ability, he could sense someone else approaching. This put his senses on high alert. He was surprised by the arrival of his friend, who had also been with him in the dungeon. The presence of a familiar face made him quite excited. Quite confused, our protagonist could see that the system was able to deeply analyze his allies. Not understanding what was happening, the boy with the shield asked if our protagonist was okay. Getting up, our young man wanted to know if his friend could see anything unusual in that place, but it seemed only he could see the information left by the system. But there was a reason the young man had come to the tent. He had something to give our protagonist. It was the amulet he always wore around his neck. Unfortunately, it was broken when they found it. Regretfully, the young man acknowledged how important it was to our protagonist and said he would have liked to fix it. but he was too clumsy. Very grateful, our gray-haired boy thanked him for his contribution. This amulet had always been with him, and it would continue to be as he moved forward. Our protagonist's mood left his friend quite relieved. Now it was time to let the captain know he had finally woken up. There was a lot of information to confirm, but our boy was motivated. Only then did he notice something else in the tent. A small carving resembling a turtle, but this information was wrong as the system said it was a rifle. Our boy obviously corrected the system, which accepted the command. This was truly impressive. Our boy heard other people talking. They would continue exploring since they hadn't received any magic crystals yet. As soon as he left the tent, his companions called out to him. He walked toward the captain. People were surprised that he had survived. Our protagonist assured them he had recovered well and had no lasting injuries, which made everyone very happy. But looking at his companions, you could tell they seemed to have gone through some difficult times. They were all attacked by the same dangerous birds and had to fight to survive. Since they were scattered, they lost track of their companions and were under constant attack until they heard a terrifying roar that scared off all the birds. That noise made them all gather, and consequently they found our boy unconscious. Our protagonist knew that the companions who were annihilated, Bowl Cut and those sleazy extras, were defeated at the hands of the demon. The captain wanted to know what our protagonist had witnessed, so he promised he would tell her everything. The others were surprised to learn that the large magic crystal had turned into a demon. Moreover, it was extremely powerful. None of them stood a chance against that creature. Our protagonist was spared because he didn't try to touch the crystal. The other companions were now shocked that Bowl Cut had tried to end our boy's life just to keep the money. Meanwhile, the captain was contemplating the strength of this demon, which had subdued those adventurers with such ease. Since our protagonist had lost consciousness due to his injuries, he didn't know what happened next. The truth was, he didn't want to reveal what the little robot did. Thinking of everyone's safety, the captain announced they would be returning to the city since the demon could reappear. Then, our protagonist's friend, who has an extremely complicated Chinese name, called him over to pack things up. From now on, he was going to be the playboy. Only then did our protagonist think of something extremely important. He didn't know what day it was, and he desperately asked the playboy. Counting on his fingers, he said that our boy had been unconscious for 3 days, and it was now September 15th. That's when our boy remembered that this was the last day to pay the rent. Desperate, he started running, leaving the playboy very worried. Our protagonist went straight to his captain. He informed her that he couldn't go to the city with them, as he needed to return to his hometown. Night fell, and they ran through the forest, crossing over various bits of rubble. Our boy was heading to pay the rent, accompanied by his playboy friend. He didn't know why he was being followed, but the playboy was worried about him walking alone in that place, which was full of dangerous beasts. He was extremely happy with the young man's consideration. Our protagonist had some dangerous crystals. As long as he paid by noon, everything would be fine. He kept running desperately, trying to avoid the beasts and prevent his family from becoming homeless. In the middle of that place, the system identified that wolves were nearby. Immediately, he put his hand out in front of the playboy to stop him from running. Our protagonist's eyes could see all the creatures, and now they were completely surrounded. Our boy's stats were still completely poor, and several wolves were approaching, ready for a little snack in the forest. By our protagonist's calculations, there were more than 20 monsters, and his friend was already thinking they wouldn't be able to win. Furthermore, the stats of each of those creatures were quite challenging. The playboy asked what the plan was, and our protagonist knew that if they ran, they would be chased to exhaustion. Unfortunately, they would have to fight until not a single creature was left. For the playboy, this choice of strategy was a relief, as he enjoys beating up monsters. Wielding his shield, he began to break teeth and claws with ease. It was time to teach these petulant beings a lesson. Thanks to his demonic body, our boy's strength was devastating. His sword might be broken, but thanks to the enhancement he received, that's completely surmountable. Our protagonist manages to annihilate the first wolf with great ease. He's surprised he did it in a single blow. Excited, he shared with the playboy that he managed to level up, and he was surprised since he knew our boy has a broken body. Now he can face stronger creatures. In this world, when the awakened level up, they don't receive attributes proportionally. Instead, they get 12 points that can be allocated to any of the possible attributes. Thanks to his demonic body, our boy is synchronizing his new skills and attributes. Every time he levels up, he receives 120 attribute points. For someone who is unable to level up, this is a very advantageous situation. Our protagonist's friend is becoming more and more alarmed as the number of creatures keeps growing. And indeed, even our boy is finding it very strange. The creatures, it seems, have at least a high school education. They can strategize and are attacking in turns. This is being done with the intention of weakening their prey. Atop a mountain, the pack leader began to howl. Our protagonist realized what was happening. He looked at the hideous creature and felt a great fear. Even the system warned that this target could be a bit dangerous. Desperate, he told the playboy to start running because the boss had arrived. The great white wolf leaped into the clearing. The impact of its paws on the ground is simply devastating. Our protagonist is thrown back, and the other wolves bow before the alpha wolf's presence. The Wolf King is here to make the game even more interesting. Boss creatures are mutants with extremely high attributes and mastery of elemental skills. Our protagonist can't understand how he keeps running into threatening creatures, and now the escape route has been completely blocked by the subordinate wolves. If they try to run, that great white wolf will definitely chase them. Our boy's only solution is to open his attribute panel. He needs to increase his strength and speed, and that's exactly what he's going to do now. He bravely told the playboy that he would take care of the boss creature, so it would be up to him to handle the minions. Our protagonist rushes forward, claiming he's just going to hurt his victim a little. The wolf observes the approach, feeling offended that someone so weak would dare to fight it. So he decided to show our boy the full extent of its violence. Thanks to the system's information, our protagonist realized he was about to be bitten. So this is his chance to surprise the creature. He managed to dodge the attack and slide under its belly, giving him an opportunity to strike a very sensitive spot. The wolf's entire body is now coated in electricity. A great flash of light erupted in the middle of the clearing. It's bright enough to blind anyone who can see. Our protagonist only has the system to guide him. And one thing is for sure, danger is approaching. Slashes from the wolf are clearing the glade even more. No tree can withstand that force, and several of them were brought to the ground. Our protagonist narrowly dodged what would have been a fatal blow. That attack was imbued with elemental power. He can't defend against it yet. All this energy is coating the boss wolf's body as it prepares to attack again. Thanks to this elemental enhancement, our protagonist needs to be very careful. The problem is he's holding a broken sword. Remembering he has the system on his side, he considered the possibility of learning that technique instead of just analyzing it. At least that's what he did with the turtle figure. It's time to put his hypothesis to the test. So he asked the system if you could learn the technique in real time. The command was received immediately, and the elements of the wolf's silver light are being absorbed. Our protagonist's friend watches the fight, desperate. The great wolf is about to use its magic again, but now our protagonist understands it completely. A massive barrage of attacks is unleashed within the clearing. Our protagonist carefully watches what happened. A large shield appeared before his eyes. It was the playboy who had joined the battle. He's relieved they're still alive, but they can't underestimate the creature's strength. Thanks to these few seconds, our protagonist could learn the technique. Funny, isn't it? A guy with gray hair learning electricity techniques. I wonder who he learned it from, right? The playboy desperately warned that his shield wouldn't last much longer. The damage is simply absurd. If they don't do something, both of them will certainly meet their end here, since the wolf is determined to make a meal out of them. Our protagonist reached the peak of his anger. He won't allow his friend to keep struggling in a hopeless battle, and showing the lightning in his hands, he warned that they are not harmless in this fight. It's time to return to the city alive. Our boy is much stronger and much faster. Another trait that beasts and the awakened share in this world is that if there's elemental compatibility, they can develop interesting abilities. There are 5 elements: star, electricity, center, cloud, and flower, each with its own characteristics. To obtain more stable abilities, humans researched extensively, but after many experiments, they reached no conclusion. Thanks to the system's ability, our boy is replicating the Great Wolf's skill. And looking back, the playboy could see that our protagonist was replicating the same technique. It's truly impressive that he learned it at such a critical moment. Our protagonist said it was luck. The elements around him are just compatible with his composition. Even though if he learned this technique, the attribute difference between him and the wolf is still absurd, and the playboy's shield won't last much longer. In just a few seconds, the barrier was completely shattered by the wolf's attack. Our protagonist rushes to help his friend who is badly injured. He coughs, his chest racked with pain. Thanks to that attack, his stats were reduced by 60%, which worries our protagonist greatly. And before them stands a furious wolf, ready to end the fight. With his renewed sword, our gray-haired boy promised he would end this battle. The wolf's blows are coming his way, but thanks to the system's help, he can see the attack's trajectory. Dodging it won't be difficult at all, since our boy knows the exact path of each of those slashes. And now he's using his own power to defend himself, preventing him and his friend from being defeated. The wolf, on the other hand, remains quite furious. By striking the ground, it purposely kicked up dust to block its enemy's vision. Even so, the system is informing him of the approaching attacks. Our boy acted quickly, moving from his position. He managed to dodge 2 slashes cutting through the air. However, he came very close to getting a new haircut. After falling to the ground, he started to rethink his strategy. It's time for him to attack the creature. He manages to hit the wolf's face with one of his slashes. Even so, the creature remains in rage. Watching the fight, the playboy can't even believe our protagonist has become so powerful. He remains virtually unfazed in the face of such a powerful creature. As the fight drags on, he can tell that the energy consumption of elemental skills is really intense, and his ability to recover that power isn't as good as the wolf's. The longer the fight goes on, the more complicated it gets. Our protagonist realized he needed to resort to his last option. Many elements are gathering around the great wolf, and the system told the boy to be on alert. It's definitely trying to end the fight now, so there's no other choice. The demonic power has finally been activated, and Hell is paying attention to our boy. Several system warnings are informing him that Hell is trying to take control of his actions. And now our protagonist is in a state of fury. His power has increased absurdly, and his control over the elements is simply phenomenal. Faced with this, there's nothing the wolf can do. It tries to attack, but our protagonist is much stronger. The slash from his blade completely overpowers the wolf's attack. Realizing this, it understood it would soon be in a coffin. In the next second, the wolf's head is gone, and with a single blow, the battle was over. Our protagonist's blade was capable of slicing through mountains. After that single strike, his power returned to normal. The playboy watched all of this from the sidelines and is completely speechless. He carefully observes the mysterious energies surrounding our boy's body. The system is reporting that his mental state is being compromised and the demonic power has been forcibly removed. Our boy didn't expect to receive such an intense boost. If it weren't for the system, he would have lost control. He was also informed that Hell is very pleased with this performance and has left a mark on him. Our boy definitely doesn't plan on using that power again in the future. Then the playboy approached him. With a smile on his face, the young man said everything was fine. He just used too much of his elemental power and is now a bit exhausted. Looking at the clock, he realized it was almost 11 and there was a long way to go. Unfortunately, collecting materials from the creature would take too long, so he'd have to leave it behind. But his friend spoke up. He'd stay behind and collect everything. After all, they had to help each other. A creature like that holds many treasures, which is why the body couldn't be abandoned. Truth is, he never imagined our protagonist was so strong. He could definitely go on alone. He didn't need any help. Our protagonist was a bit worried about his friend, but the playboy said he wasn't working for free. He'd also heard that the wolf's meat was delicious, so he told him to hurry up and handle his business in the city. Finally, he could focus on what was most important. Soon, he was on the outskirts of the city. Someone was aggressively demanding rent. A little girl explained that her brother would be back soon and that there was no need to rush. But the rude man said it was in the contract. If they didn't pay, they'd be evicted. That magical device they had was very hard to get. Even so, they were late on the rent. The man even suggested the girl's brother was probably dead and would never return, which only made her angrier. Hearing this, she decided to stomp on the scoundrel's foot. Good for her. There was one thing she wouldn't tolerate: her brother being insulted right in front of her. Furious, the man was ready to teach her a lesson, but other people arrived at that very moment. Finally, the deadline had been reached. It was time to evict them all. Not everyone could use devices like that. Either they pay the rent or get thrown out of the city. And it was time for these people to make their choice. The poor little girl was very intimidated by the presence of all those guys. And the old man in the back of the room just kept drinking peacefully. He announced that his beauty sleep had been disturbed and now there were noisy people in his house. The little girl finally noticed the old man was awake and was now happy. Getting up, the old man realized it didn't just want money, so he would give them what they needed. He pulled a small remote from his pocket and pressed the button. The device in the room began to operate. The whole floor started to shake, making the thugs panic. The device's movement scared all of them. It was like a giant robot. Looking closer at the construction, the bald jerk realized he'd gotten scared for no reason. Now that life is completely different in this world, it's absurd that anyone would still think of building robots. If that thing doesn't move, it's just a pile of junk. So the leader of the thugs decided to take the object. The robot's shell is very powerful and durable. Unfortunately, the artificial intelligence is gone, but the material still has value. Now that the object's value was recognized, the old man was relieved. You wouldn't have to explain its worth to these morons. The little girl grew desperate, since that was her grandfather's life's work. But he comforted her, saying that some things are much more urgent and important. Still, she was furious. If she had a weapon, she'd set the world on fire. The leader of the thugs told the old man he was ignoring something very important. That thing wouldn't be enough for the rent. The robot's materials are still useful, but the most important parts have already been extracted. And since it was past noon, he was violating the terms of the contract. The penalty was now 10 times the rent. An absurd amount. And after deducting the robot's value, he still owed 20 magic crystals. The old man didn't agree with this threat, so the thug decided to be a bit more persuasive. He informed him that he had one day to pay the rest, or else he'd become homeless. With his arm raised, Pang Ming orders everyone to transport the goods. The group of men then begins to pull the thick cables of a large machine. They continue to strip the wires from the robot's entire frame. From a distance, the old man watches and apologizes to his friend for having no other choice. One of the men complains about the hard work and decides to take some components to sell. But Sioxio stops him, telling him to stop as this wasn't part of the deal. The man shoves her violently, stating he'll take what he wants and telling her to stay out of it. The impact sends the girl falling to the ground. Meanwhile, another thug announces that this is the last steel cable, and the cable finally snaps. They realize the robot is about to fall right on top of the girl. The old man screams her name. She looks up. Someone rushes toward her at high speed. Then the heavy machine collides with the ground. Lu Wei emerges from the dust holding the girl, who calls him brother. He apologizes for being late and asks if her injury hurts. But the girl replies that it doesn't and apologizes for not protecting their home. He tells her not to feel bad, assuring her she did great and that she can leave the rest to him. From a distance, Sirki comments that this makes things easier. Pang Ming confronts the young man, demanding he pay his family's debt and hand over the magic crystals. He glares at the group of men. One of them asks what he's looking at, intimidated by his gaze. The young man tells the girl to step back and she asks him to be careful. He then activates his universal analysis on the men before him. The analysis reveals that most of them are just E-rank nobodies. The young man offers a bag, saying the crystals they want are inside, but that hurting his family won't end well for them. The man tries to grab the bag, stating that trash should know its place. He stares back with a smirk, but he's met with a knee to the face. The knee strike shatters one of the man's teeth. Next, Lu Wei leaps into the air, yelling that this kick is for Xilaxio. His foot connects squarely with the man's face. The aggressor falls as the young man lands perfectly. One of the cronies gets angry, accusing him of tricking them. and orders the others to teach him a lesson. But he charges at the group, warning them they should worry about themselves first. He moves quickly among them, striking them all at once. As the last one falls, he keeps his gaze fixed forward. Pang Ming wonders how an F-rank guy got so strong. Zikivi hurries him along, complaining they've already wasted too much time here. The man tells the boy not to get cocky and promises to show him real power. However, the punch is blocked by the young man's foot. He's then kicked away and told not to mess up his house. The kick sends him flying out of the building. Xiaoxiu shouts, cheering for her brother to keep going. Ziqiu watches everything with interest. Outside, Pang Ming lands in a pile of trash. He gets up and admits his opponent's speed isn't bad, but his strength is pathetic, swearing this will be his end. The young man tells him not to jump to conclusions, reminding him the fight isn't over yet. With a determined look, he declares that he'll settle all scores old and new today. A flashback shows Pang Ming and his henchmen bullying Lu Wei in the past. Even on the ground, the boy already showed the determination to break free. In the present, he wields an energy sword. Pang Ming scoffs at the weapon, calling it a broken sword and saying his strongest move is a joke. Taki watches the fight, resting his chin on his hand. Worried, Xiaoxiu yells that they can still escape if her brother can't beat him. With his armor active, Pang Ming claims his defense is top-notch and promises to make his opponent feel real pain. The young man replies that fighting up close was never his intention, angering his adversary. He then launches a ranged attack with his sword. The blow strikes Pang Ming's armor directly. He feels the impact and staggers. The attacker continues to unleash a series of strikes. The continuous attacks push him back. As he attacks, the young man's system begins to analyze the enemy's armor. He confirms that he can examine and learn the abilities of the awakened. The system initiates a deeper analysis to track the attack's elemental trajectories. Through this, it obtains new data on the nuclear element's star map. The process is completed, and the system learns the heavy core armor ability. Pang Ming deactivates his armor, complaining that it's useless, and decides to attack directly. He charges forward as his opponent prepares to counter at the perfect moment. The young man leaps forward, concentrating elemental power into his weapon for a devastating blow. His enemy watches him approach, but a swift strike intercepts the blade. Zikumai suddenly appears, catching the sword and declaring that the farce is over. The energy blade is stopped by his bare hand. He comments on the elemental damage and lightning power, questioning when the boy acquired such skills. He then orders Pang Ming to stand down, stating he's no match for their opponent. The young man can barely follow his movements. His analysis only captures fragments of what he sees. As he attempts a full scan on Ziki, he hears the man ask if he's trying to probe him. Ziki asks what the young man managed to see, and he realizes his opponent's stats are far beyond his capabilities. The grandfather pulls Xiaoxiu back, and Lu Wei understands he only has one option left. A dark energy begins to emanate from him as the system fails to contain the unstable power. He declares that if they want to hurt his family, they'll have to do it over his dead body. Ziki notices the change in the boy's presence and feels a shiver of dread. Suddenly, someone yells for a stupid mutt to stop right there. A dog appears, running with a large crystal in its mouth, followed by Zhao Zhao, who chases it furiously, telling it to give back what it stole. He keeps yelling during the chase, promising the dog will be sorry when he catches it. Finally, Zhao Zhao grabs him. The crystal slips from the animal's mouth and falls right in front of Ziqiu and Pang Ming. The man looks at the object on the ground. Lu Wei and Xiaoxiu recognize him immediately and call out Zhao Zhao's name. The young man expresses relief that he made it out of the forest, and the newcomer explains he would have been here sooner if the dog hadn't stolen his crystal. He then looks around and realizes the magic crystal is gone, now in Ziqiu's hands. The man holds it up and asks where they got it. Zhao explains that crystals of that level come from bosses and asks if the man shouldn't return the item. Lu Wei confirms the crystal is from a boss called the Silver Fang Wolf King, explaining the late rent was due to an ambush. Ziqi doubts they hunted a boss alone, but Zhao Zhao reveals that Lu Wei defeated it by himself. Holding the crystal, Ziqi reconsiders the situation. He then tosses a scroll to the young man, telling him he should consider himself lucky to be alive. He states that the magic crystal will cover 3 months of rent and compensation. Pang Ming asks if they're leaving already as the group begins to withdraw. The grandfather questions Zhao Zhao about the robot, but he doesn't know what to say. Lu Wei analyzes the contract and confirms everything is in order. Xiaoxiu says goodbye, yelling for the gorilla to leave. Pang Ming gets angry at the insult, but Ziki ignores him. The man walks away with his subordinates, carrying the injured. With the group far away, Lu Wei comments that they really left. Xiaoxiu runs to her brother and asks when he got so strong. He just scratches his head and says maybe it was luck. Xiao Zhao dumps out a large amount of materials and meat, explaining that the materials are for Lu Wei, but the meat is his. Then he shows off the most precious item, the giant fang of the Silver Fang Wolf King. Lu Wei holds the fang, a perfect weapon material to enhance his skills and forge a new weapon. The encounter with Ziqi made him realize that without his risky demonic power, he still stands no chance against him. He decides to keep getting stronger to protect everyone, while Xiaoxiu and Zhao Zhao plan to have a barbecue with the meat. The grandfather approaches and comments that those are excellent materials. He adjusts his monocle and says the young man seems to have changed a lot, guessing he's been through many experiences on his journey. Lu Wei confirms that a lot has happened. some of it feeling almost unreal. But the grandfather surprises him by mentioning that it seems he has already met Lan Bao. He then states that, at the right time, he also has some things to tell him. The charcoal is lit in the grill. 2 large steaks are placed on the grate over the hot coals. Wearing a chef's hat, Xiao Zhao announces that the meat is ready. Gathered together, they all start to eat. Xiao Zhao tells them not to fight, assuring them there's enough food for everyone. Xiaoxio eats a piece of meat and says it's delicious, but she soon starts to feel sleepy. Lu Wei says she ate too much as his system analyzes the meat and reveals that excessive consumption causes drowsiness. The grandfather remarks that it's been a long time since they had such a cheerful meal, and the young man agrees. He says he's never tasted anything so good and imagines the beast must have been hard to fight. He explains that the battle was intense and he only won thanks to Lan Bao's power, but admits he needs to use it cautiously. The system then hides all information related to Lan Bao, blocking access. Lu Wei asks his grandfather if he already knew about Lan Bao, confessing that he still only understands half of the system. While Zhao Zhao tries to wake Xiaoxio, the young man reflects on how he must use his power to become stronger and protect everyone. He turns to his grandfather and asks if he believes the world can be restored to how it was before. The old man calmly scolds him, explaining that the gears of history don't stop so easily, and that the creation did destroy everything. With a hand on his shoulder, he comforts him, saying that at least they are still here. Then he turns his gaze to the robot, his old companion with whom he worked for over 20 years. A memory shows it as a simple combat machine that, through time and hardship, gradually developed feelings. Even though the creation removed its consciousness, he believes it hasn't completely disappeared. The grandfather affirms his faith that it will return somehow, as that is its destiny. He then tells Lu Wei that he also has his own destiny and must follow his heart to find the right path. The young man's system detects an emotional fluctuation and, unable to understand the reason, generates a new reaction. The system's stubbornness reminds him of how Lan Bao was when learning new things. He then asks if Lan Bao left anything behind, like a fragment of the world, but his grandfather says he's never heard of that. Soon after, he reveals that Lan Bao left an important notebook in the old house and that now would be the right time for him to know. He encourages the young man to go there, stating that he will find the answers he seeks. With the right day approaching, Lu Wei decides he must also visit his father and mother. Night passes over the city, and a new day begins. Lu Wei trains intensely with weights on his wrists. He then completes his daily running and exercise routine. With the automatic analysis, he has reached level 56, but he knows his progression will slow down. He decides it's better to keep investing in elemental power. At the end of his workout, he heads to the city market to buy supplies. He needs food for the long journey to the old house and also wants to bring Xiaoxio's favorite honey cakes made by Auntie Alan. A vendor recognizes him and asks if he's had trouble with any beasts. The man offers charms to ward off monsters, but the system questions their actual utility. Suddenly, the vendor shouts for everyone to catch the thief. A hooded figure runs through the crowd, apologizing. In their escape, they cause a huge commotion, knocking over people and goods. Lu Wei realizes the person's speed indicates they are an awakened one. He sees that Auntie Alan's shipment was knocked over and laments that she won't be able to pay her rent. He yells that he'll help with the chase and takes off at a run. The hooded figure runs, believing they've already lost everyone, but the distance closes quickly, and he orders them to return the aunt's belongings. The thief turns and claims to be a professional at escaping. They fire a grappling hook toward a nearby fish stall. The hook catches on the awning and the young man realizes what's about to happen. The structure is torn down, completely blocking the path with debris. Amid the confusion, he notices the thief has already escaped using the hook. He orders the system to expand the range of its environmental analysis. A complete scan of the neighboring buildings begins. The analysis maps the area, and it locates the hooded figure running across a rooftop. The thief celebrates the food but realizes the stolen items have their owner's marks. They note they're close to their destination and must be more careful. The hooded figure then prepares to descend from the roof at a specific spot. The system locates the target on the roof and he runs in the indicated direction. The distance closes rapidly, with only 5 meters left between them. When the fugitive jumps from the building, he is already waiting below and declares that he's got her. The person in midair wonders why he is there. He stares at her and says that this time she has nowhere to run. The thief fires the grappling hook at him again, but the strike is intercepted in midair with a swift move. He pulls the rope and yells that the same trick won't work, demanding she apologize to Auntie Alan. With the pull, the figure loses her balance and drops all the stolen items. The thief realizes she is going to collide directly with the ground. He watches her fall toward him. He catches her in his arms, and the girl, revealing her identity, asks if she's been caught. The girl fell into the alley below. He holds her in his arms and she asks how long he plans on doing this. Sarcastically, she says a hug won't kill him and reminds him that he was the one who pulled her down. He questions her for playing the victim. The girl gives in and tries to leave, but he grabs her by the cape, demanding she go apologize. As he holds her, he notices something on her neck. The system detects a suspicious substance similar to beast toxin. While she tries to get her bag back, he asks if the wound was caused by poison. He warns that the toxin is dangerous after its incubation period and questions why she hasn't sought treatment. She replies that she has no magic crystals to pay for it. She says if she had enough, she wouldn't have to worry about surviving. Picking up the bread from the ground, she claims she can't even afford this, let alone treatment. She explains she tried to join a team but was rejected for having very low attack power. The analysis confirms she is telling the truth and that her stats forced her to steal to live. Yuxi declares that just living one more day is enough. Crying, she says she has no hope and tells him to arrest her if he wants. He offers her a few crystals for treatment, only asking that she promise not to steal again. A voice shouts from a distance, announcing they've come to help him. While he calls back that he's over there, the girl uses the distraction to make a quick escape. He turns and tells her to just leave if that's what she's going to do. She disappears at high speed, making him note that she's faster than a rabbit. Back at the market, the vendor wonders why the amulet was pointing to that spot since no one is around. Aunt Ellen thanks him for retrieving the honey cakes, explaining it was the last order required by Zikui. Hearing the name, he realizes Zikui is involved again. From a distance, the girl watches everything from a rooftop. Holding the crystals, she remarks that simple men are easy to fool and that the payment is just an extra tip. The system cancels one of the effects and restores her status panel. The analysis reveals her true identity as the assassin Black Raven Uzixi, now fully recovered from the poison. She wonders how he managed to catch up to her, as she had investigated everyone in the city and found no one with such detection abilities. Suddenly, she receives a mysterious call and realizes it's her boss. The voice on the other end asks Black Raven to report on the mission's progress. She informs him that she's in the guild's territory, but still has no leads on the smuggled power devices. Using a spyglass, she observes Zikui inspecting goods and says she can't act yet. She confirms the boxes contain only honey cakes, which Zikui has been monopolizing in the city. The deliveries are constantly being transported to the Misty Forest, where troops are also gathering. The assassin concludes that something big must be about to happen, but her boss states he only wants proof of the smuggling and threatens her with the consequences of failure. Uzixi confirms she understands the orders. Meanwhile, Lu Wei walks down the street wondering why the guild needs so many honey cakes. He looks at the amulet you received from the vendor, still unsure of its purpose. He decides to give the gift to Chioxio and hurries to prepare for his trip. Holding the box of cakes, he announces that he's home. Chioxio confronts him at the door, asking why he didn't take them with him. Xiao Zhao also questions him for acting alone, while the girl insists on going with him to the forest. Warning them that the journey is long and dangerous, he reassures them, saying he's already bought everything they need. He explains that he knows a safe trail and didn't want to involve them in his business, but the two insist his problem is their problem too, and he finally agrees to take them. Meanwhile, a polishing machine is working at full capacity. His grandfather forges a new weapon for him, stating that better materials are harder to shape. He hands him a large hammer, saying he can't go to the forest without a decent weapon. He reminds him that his grandson used to help with repairs when he was little, so the tool should help him now. The system reports that the repair hammer has been reinforced for greater attack power. Before they leave, his grandfather asks him to send his regards to them. Xiao Zhao announces they are all set, and Xiao asks her little pet to protect the house. He realizes he really can't say no to his friends. With everything ready, he announces the start of their journey, and the group sets off, excited. The map traces the route from the city to the depths of the forest. The marked trail leads them toward their final destination, and somewhere in the misty forest, rain falls on an ancient structure. Elsewhere, a white wolf lies wounded on the wet ground. A reptilian creature bites the other animal, and a group of similar beings gathers in the rain. Lu Wei, Zhao Zhao, and Xiao choose the farthest entrance from the city to enter the misty forest, heading toward the ruins. They opt for this path because, although longer, it's considered the safest. The rough terrain makes the journey difficult, but the group makes it through without encountering any danger. After more than a day of walking, he announces their arrival, and the system notifies him that he has reached level E7. From above, they all look down on the ancient city ruins, now overgrown with vegetation. Zhao Zhao remarks that everything seems scattered, and Lu Wei explains that the old house is still further ahead. As they walk through the ruins, he recognizes a soccer field from his childhood, finding it all both familiar and strange at the same time. Xiao Zhao calls his attention to something they spot in the distance. They come across what's left of a large fountain from the old park. His friend recalls that this was where Lan Bao saved him from being drowned by other boys. The system reports that after that memory, he stopped responding, but it has a feeling he will awaken soon. Sir Oxio points to the fountain and asks to experience the place too, since they have memories there. He smiles and asks the system if it's also trying to feel the moment. Xiao Zhao wonders how Lan Bao managed to escape the creator, an entity that destroyed intelligent machines. Lu Wei suspects his parents foresaw the creator's ambition, and that's why they created Lan Bao for him with a similar system. Xiao Zhao is surprised to learn that the system is similar to the creator's. He believes that if revived, Lan Bao could face him, but Lu Wei says they're there to find clues and fulfill their destiny. Xiao Zhao confesses he's envious that he always moves forward with a purpose, something he himself lacks. He explains that he was forced to study business to inherit the family store, but he prefers the life of an awakened one, which he stumbled upon by chance. He says he feels needed when protecting others with his shield and asks if that could be the meaning he's looking for. Lu Wei states that it's because of him they can fight without hesitation, and Zhao Zhao promises to protect everyone. Suddenly, something catches the group's attention. A thick fog appears around them, and Zhao Zhao wonders where it came from. Lu Wei tells Xiaoxiu to stay back while Zhao Zhao says there's something wrong with that fog. He activates his omniscient analysis to investigate the area. The scan expands across the area, passing through the fog and water. The system detects several aquatic humanoid monsters hidden beneath the surface. The creatures emerge from the water surrounding the two young men. Lu Wei yells for Zhao Zhao to protect Xiaoxiu. His friend quickly gets in front of the girl with his shield and says to leave it to him. The analysis reveals 6 enemies scattered in the distance, but he already knows their positions in advance. Suddenly, he's hit by an attack he can't see. He wonders what happened as he realizes his shoulder is injured. He jumps to dodge another invisible strike that cuts through the water in front of him. Zhao Zhao and Xiaoxiu shout, asking if he's okay. He replies that it's just a scratch. He realizes he's only getting the attack notification without being able to see the skill's trajectory. He decides to attack one of the monsters directly to figure out what's going on. The creature backs away from his charge. He attacks with his hammer, but the blow passes right through the target. Realizing it was just an illusion, he continues his attack motion. The swinging hammer hits something invisible in the air. The impact reveals scales materializing briefly. He states that now he understands what's happening. Elsewhere, someone mentions that the bait managed to attract the bear. One man dismisses the concern about the animal, but his colleague insists that the monster is different this time and has scared everyone. As they walk, he mentions that due to a shortage of staff, he had to hire some rookies. He yells at one of the newcomers to stop dawdling and hurry up. The rookie, with an altered appearance, overhears what he considers interesting news. He identifies what appears to be Zeki's room and states that he will soon uncover all his secrets. Inside the office, Zeki is sitting at his desk. Holding a pocket watch, he tells his younger brother that the time has finally come. The object shows a photo of a young man with glasses. He explains that it was with his help that he obtained the power devices that ensure the guild's dominance in the city. He swears that he now has enough power to get his revenge and will defeat the one responsible. Pang Ming rushes into the room, announcing that Zhang Tangyu won't be coming. He hands over a recorder with a voice message that was meant to be heard in person, and Zeki tells him to play it. The recording begins with a man explaining that he doesn't have time for the mission because of Xiaomai's birthday. He continues the message, bragging about having several women begging for his attention, and announces he will postpone the mission. Zeki slams his fist on the table and calls him an arrogant fool. He accuses the man of trying to take the money and run, stating he only puts up with him because he's useful to the plan. Pang Ming crouches down and asks if they really have to give up now that everything is ready. He warns him about the danger of the intermediate magic crystal, which could blow up the entire building. Upon hearing about the crystal's power, Zeki gets a new idea. He picks up the object and states that there's another option right there. He then informs Pang Ming that the plan will proceed as scheduled. But first, he declares they need to find a specific person. One of the creatures reforms from the water. It then leaps toward Lu Wei to attack him. He's surprised by how quickly the monster formed a phantom, but he claims that now that he knows their trick, the fight will be easy. He deduces their ability is cloud-like and that his electric power will be super effective. He moves forward, unleashing an electric current into the water. The electricity spreads quickly through the current. The shock hits the creatures, forcing them to materialize. Another monster is also revealed by the electric attack. From behind his shield, Zhao Zhao shouts that they're all visible now. One of the creatures tries to escape through the water. Lu Wei appears beside the enemy, questioning its escape attempt. He strikes the target, saying it's too late for that. The creature is defeated, and the system notifies him of the experience gain. He then turns to confront the others advancing on him. The system analyzes the ability and begins to learn its composition. He attacks another monster with his hammer. He realizes that different weapons create distinct effects and learns the Lightwater Phantom skill. The new technique creates a phantom identical to the user to confuse enemies, showing great potential. He remembers Zhao Zhao and decides to help him, since his friend can't tell the real monsters from the illusions. Something then catches his attention. He jumps to dodge several tridents thrown in his direction. The enemies are now attacking from a distance, proving to be smarter than they seemed. He decides to test his new skill on one of them. The creature charges forward and attacks the phantom with its trident. Meanwhile, Zhao Zhao blocks multiple attacks, stating it'll take more than that to break his shield. But he complains the attacks are endless, and Xiaoxiu says they can't always depend on Lu Wei. He then orders the girl to stay behind him, as the monster can't maintain its power for long. The creature watches Xiaoxiu from underwater. It leaps out in a surprise attack toward her. The amulet in the girl's backpack begins to tremble. It then breaks free and flies towards the creature leaping at the girl. Xiaoxiu watches the scene, not understanding what happened. Both Lu Wei and Zhao Zhao are also surprised by the action. The monster is thrown back into the water, stunned by the impact. Lu Wei becomes enraged that they dared to harm Xiaoxiu. As he advances, he says it must be asking for a fight. He quickly smashes the creature with a powerful blow from his hammer. The young man realizes the vendor's amulet was useful and decides he'll visit him more often, as his level rises to E9. Zhao Zhao takes the opportunity to attack the last enemy. With everyone defeated, he turns and realizes he's taken care of them all. The system notifies him that he has finally reached D rank, and he celebrates the advancement. Lu Wei congratulates him while Xiaoxio pokes one of the monsters, saying it got what it deserved. The fog dissipates, and the young man suggests they collect the magic crystals and move on. As they get ready, Zhao Zhao comments they might even find some treasure along the way. He explains that the monsters can drop a rare material called Merman's Tear, but they only find common items on the creature's body. Lu Wei asks about the item's use, but his friend doesn't know the details and confirms that monster didn't have one either. Near the water, Xiaoxio finds a shining object on another creature's body. She runs to the boys to show them what she found, commenting that the object is cold to the touch. The two are surprised to see she found 2 Merman's Tears at once. The system reveals the item can remove poisons and speed up power recovery, and the girl offers both orbs